Dear brothers and sisters, fasting in Ramadan is a sacred act of worship, an obligation prescribed upon us for spiritual purification and self-discipline. However, at times, due to forgetfulness, one may unintentionally eat or drink. What happens in such a situation? Should the fast be broken? Should one feel guilty? The beauty of Islam lies in its mercy and fairness. If a person eats or drinks unintentionally while fasting, their fast remains valid. This is because Islam judges actions based on intention. If it was not done knowingly, there is no sin upon them. Allah, in His infinite mercy, does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, has clearly stated that if someone forgets and eats during fasting, it is Allah who has fed them, and they should continue their fast. This is a clear indication of Allah's kindness and how He facilitates ease for His servant. The moment one realizes they are fasting, they must immediately stop eating or drinking. This serves as a lesson in mindfulness and self-awareness. Ramadan is not just about refraining from food and drink, but also about strengthening our consciousness of Allah in all aspects of life. Instead of feeling discouraged over an honest mistake, take it as a reminder to be more mindful. Use this experience to develop better focus on your fasting and your connection with Allah. Mistakes do not define us, rather how we learn and grow from them does. May Allah accept our fasts, forgive our shortcomings, and grant us the strength to complete this blessed month with sincerity and devotion. A minor mistake should never discourage a believer from continuing their fast or weaken their faith. Instead, it should serve as an opportunity to strengthen one's determination and sincerity in observing Ramadan. Often when someone realizes they have accidentally eaten or drunk something during a fast, their immediate reaction is panic, guilt, or even a sense of failure. However, Islam is a religion of ease and mercy, and such a mistake does not invalidate the fast, nor does it reduce its reward. Rather, it serves as a lesson in mindfulness and a reminder to stay committed despite challenges. The human mind is prone to forgetfulness, and Allah, in His infinite wisdom, acknowledges this. That is why unintentional actions are not counted against a person. The fact that a fasting person mistakenly eats and then immediately stops upon realizing their fast shows their sincerity. Their initial mistake does not define the entirety of their fast, nor does it diminish its value. Instead of allowing this momentary lapse to discourage them, they should take it as an encouragement to become more aware and careful in their worship. It is important to remember that fasting is not just about abstaining from food and drink. It is a spiritual exercise that strengthens self-discipline, patience, and consciousness of Allah. When a person accidentally eats during a fast, it is an indication that their habit of eating at certain times is deeply ingrained in them. This realization can make them more mindful of their daily actions and help them develop a greater sense of self-control. A moment of forgetfulness should not be seen as a failure, but rather as an opportunity to renew one's focus and commitment. Many people, after eating accidentally, might feel discouraged and assume that their fast has been ruined. Some may even think that they have lost the reward of the fast and feel demotivated for the rest of the day. However, Islam does not burden a person beyond their capability. A single mistake does not erase the efforts of an entire fast. Instead, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that such occurrences are part of Allah's mercy, where He provides sustenance to His servant. This perspective should instill hope and gratitude rather than guilt and despair. Ramadan is a time of spiritual growth, and every challenge or mistake should be viewed as part of the learning process. When someone accidentally eats during fasting, it is a chance to develop a deeper awareness of their actions. They can use this experience to remind themselves to be more conscious of their fast in the following days. Rather than allowing the mistake to shake their confidence, they should let it strengthen their resolve to complete the month with sincerity and devotion. Minor errors during acts of worship should not make a believer feel unworthy of Allah's mercy. No one is perfect, and even the most devout worshippers are prone to making mistakes. What truly matters is how one responds to their mistakes. Instead of becoming demoralized, a person should seek Allah's guidance and continue their fasting with even more dedication. The purpose of Ramadan is not just to endure hunger and thirst, but to cultivate a sense of discipline, patience, and closeness to Allah. An unintentional mistake does not negate these efforts, but rather provides a chance for self-reflection and improvement. One of the key lessons of Ramadan is perseverance. The ability to continue fasting with sincerity despite challenges is what strengthens one's faith. If a person allows a small mistake to discourage them, it means they are focusing more on the external aspects of fasting rather than the deeper spiritual connection it fosters. The true essence of fasting lies in one's intention, devotion, and sincerity. Therefore, instead of dwelling on an accidental mistake, a believer should use it as motivation to stay even more mindful for the rest of the day and throughout the month. Islam encourages a positive and hopeful outlook on acts of worship. Feeling guilty over an unintentional mistake is natural, but it should not lead to despair. Rather, it should be seen as a reminder that humans are dependent on Allah's guidance and mercy. Every mistake is an opportunity to seek forgiveness, improve oneself, and become more conscious of one's actions. Instead of allowing one mistake to overshadow the entire fast, a believer should focus on completing their fast with gratitude, patience, and sincerity. A minor mistake such as eating accidentally should never discourage a fasting person. Instead, it should serve as a lesson in mindfulness, a reminder of Allah's mercy, and an opportunity to strengthen one's commitment to fasting. The focus should always remain on sincerity and perseverance rather than on momentary lapses. A believer should use every experience, including mistakes, as a means to grow closer to Allah and to develop a stronger sense of discipline and awareness in their worship. Ramadan is not about achieving perfection, but about striving for sincerity, and every challenge or mistake is part of the journey towards spiritual growth. In Islam, actions are judged based on intention, and unintentional acts are not considered sinful. This principle is especially important when it comes to fasting during Ramadan. If a person eats or drinks accidentally while fasting, their fast remains valid and they are not held accountable for it. This is because the act was not deliberate, and Islam, being a religion of mercy and justice, does not impose hardship on people beyond their ability. When someone unintentionally eats during a fast, it is not a reflection of their sincerity or commitment. Rather, it is a natural mistake that can happen to anyone. One of the fundamental teachings in Islam is that Allah does not punish a person for what they do out of forgetfulness or error. This concept is reinforced in many teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who emphasize that accountability is based on a person's awareness and intention. A person who accidentally eats during fasting does not break their fast because their action was not a conscious violation of the fast. Instead, it was a moment of forgetfulness which Allah, in His infinite mercy, overlooks. Fasting is a test of self-discipline and devotion, but it is also a practice that requires gradual adaptation. Many people are accustomed to eating and drinking throughout the day, and during the initial days of Ramadan, it is common for someone to forget that they are fasting and unconsciously take a sip of water or a bite of food. In such cases, they should not feel guilty or believe that their fast has been invalidated. Instead, they should recognize that their mistake was unintentional, stop eating as soon as they remember, and continue their fast. Islamic teachings emphasize that a person is not burdened with more than they can handle. The human mind is naturally conditioned by habits, and breaking these habits suddenly can sometimes lead to unintentional mistakes. Allah, who created mankind and understands human nature best, does not hold someone accountable for something they did absent-mindedly. This is an important lesson that highlights the balance between discipline and mercy in Islamic teachings. While fasting requires self-control, it also acknowledges human limitations and does not impose unnecessary hardship. The concept of unintentional acts not being sinful extends beyond fasting and applies to other aspects of worship as well. For example, if someone forgets to pray and remembers later, they are not blamed for their forgetfulness, but are encouraged to make up for the missed prayer. Similarly, if someone makes a mistake in their prayer due to distraction or lack of knowledge, they are not punished for it. This principle is a reminder that Islam is a religion that values sincerity over perfection. What matters most is the effort and intention behind an action rather than the absence of mistakes. A believer should not allow an accidental mistake to create feelings of guilt or discouragement. Instead, they should take it as a reminder to be more mindful. If a person eats unintentionally while fasting, it is an opportunity to develop greater awareness and focus in their acts of worship. This moment can serve as a lesson in mindfulness, helping the person become more conscious of their fast and their connection to Allah. Rather than feeling disheartened, they should feel reassured that Allah's mercy is vast and that He does not burden His servants unnecessarily. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, explicitly reassured believers that if they forgetfully eat while fasting, they should not worry, as it is Allah who has provided them with sustenance. This statement is significant because it shifts the perspective from guilt to gratitude. Instead of feeling bad about their mistake, a fasting person should recognize it as a sign of Allah's kindness. It serves as a reminder that sustenance comes from Allah and that even in forgetfulness, His mercy is present. This understanding should bring comfort to the heart of the fasting person and encourage them to continue their fast with renewed determination. Another key lesson from this principle is the importance of a balanced approach to religious obligations. Islam does not demand perfection, but rather sincerity and effort. If someone unintentionally eats during fasting, they should not let it affect their motivation for the rest of the day. The correct response is to simply stop eating once they realize and carry on with their fast. They should not feel ashamed or believe that their entire fast has been ruined. Instead, they should remind themselves that Allah is the most forgiving and that unintentional mistakes do not count against them. Understanding this principle also helps in developing a deeper appreciation of Allah's mercy. Many people view religious obligations as rigid and unforgiving, but in reality, Islam is a faith that combines discipline with compassion. The fact that unintentional acts are not sinful shows that Allah does not seek to make life difficult for His servants, but rather to guide them toward righteousness in a way that is manageable and fair. This perspective helps a believer develop a positive and hopeful relationship with their faith. Unintentional acts are not sinful in Islam, and this applies to fasting as well. If someone eats or drinks accidentally while fasting, they should not worry, as their fast remains valid. This principle highlights the mercy and fairness of Islam, ensuring that people are not held accountable for honest mistakes. Instead of feeling guilty, a believer should take it as an opportunity to become more mindful and grateful for Allah's compassion. Fasting is a journey of self-improvement, and small mistakes along the way should not discourage anyone, but rather strengthen their determination to complete this act of worship with sincerity. Allah's mercy is one of the most fundamental principles in Islam, and it extends to every aspect of a believer's life, including fasting during Ramadan. When a person eats or drinks unintentionally while fasting, they may feel guilty or think that they have broken their fast, but in reality, Islam teaches that Allah does not hold people accountable for mistakes made without intention. This reflects the boundless mercy of Allah, who understands human nature and does not burden His servants with more than they can bear. The concept of divine mercy is emphasized repeatedly in the Qur'an and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. One of the names of Allah is Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, and He has promised forgiveness for those who make mistakes without intending to do so. This principle reassures believers that Islam is not a rigid set of rules meant to create hardship, but rather a path of guidance designed to nurture the soul. If a person eats or drinks by mistake during Ramadan, they should not feel discouraged, as their fast remains valid and their mistake is completely forgiven by Allah. Fasting is an act of devotion that requires discipline, but it is also a gradual process of self-improvement. Human beings are naturally prone to forgetfulness, and in the early days of Ramadan especially, a person might instinctively reach for food or drink without realizing they are fasting. When they remember, they may feel upset or anxious about what they have done, but they should take comfort in the knowledge that Allah's mercy covers such situations. Instead of dwelling on the mistake, they should immediately stop eating and continue their fast, knowing that Allah's forgiveness is vast and unconditional in such cases. One of the most beautiful aspects of divine mercy is that it allows believers to continue striving without being weighed down by guilt over honest mistakes. Islam teaches that sincerity and effort are more important than perfection. Allah does not expect believers to be free from error. Rather, He looks at the purity of their intentions. If a person mistakenly eats during their fast, it does not mean their worship is flawed. Instead, it serves as a reminder to be more mindful, which is one of the core purposes of Ramadan.